Speak. Hello, good morning, Karla. How are you?
Good morning. I am well, thank you.
Whereabouts are you now?
I'm actually on the McIntyre River in Gundawindi at my mum's place on Kamilaroi country.
Amazing. That is so beautiful. Is it hot there?
It's not as hot as it can be for this time of year. Yeah, this is near where I grew up on a farm just over the New South Wales border. So very familiar country and weather for me.
Beautiful. I'm so delighted to have you here this morning, and I think it's going to be an amazing talk, an amazing topic, hence Invasion Day, or what also Australians call Australia Day yesterday. So I'm really joyful that you're here this morning and that you have good internet connection. And so do you want to say a bit something about yourself and what you're doing and what your passion is?
Yeah, I mean, yeah, I kind of had to map out my life story this morning to kind of have the visual in my mind, because there's just been so many, life just unfolds in magical, mystical ways that I just can never foresee. So yeah, I was gonna kind of share in story form in what my life has kind of unfolded into. And also I was going to start with a poem, actually, that is all encompassing of many things that I'm going to talk about. But yeah, for me, time and time again, everything comes back to healing. And so inevitably on my life's path, it's always brought me into a place or even expressions of healing. So yeah, and I feel like definitely before I begin, I really want to acknowledge that, I'm on Kamilaroi country, and it's a very big country, and these people have taken care of these lands for over 100,000 years. And I would say, longer than that. It's the culture and the people of this country is way more than any colonized mind could ever fathom. And that is certainly something that, since I've been connecting with First Nations people, it's very big and so important for people who for us to connect to that as we walk on these lands. So definitely want to start with that. And it's important too, because we have just had, that Australia Day, Invasion Day, and from what I've seen and what I know, the call now is to unify. So that's something that I'm definitely walking with and focusing on, is what connects us as a humanity, because connection in itself is healing.
Yeah.
So will I just start with a poem and dive right
Yes.
in?
Yeah, go for it.
Awesome. Well, this poem is all encompassing of many aspects of my life. I have worked as a paramedic, working for Queensland Ambulance Service for a few years, and that feels like, it's something that's in my past, but it's interesting that it's really made me who I am in many ways. It's cultivated an endurance in me that, I couldn't really have found any other way. So I'm just gonna dive right into this poem and then share about my story.
Yeah.
So yeah, spoken word is something that I chose to focus on last year. And I didn't realize that, whilst it's my activism, was part of my body of work called Not My Country. What I discovered on the journey was these words became very healing for me. And so it is my hope that it can, support others in these crazy times, also acknowledging these crazy times. So this one is called Wild Nature Calls Us Home. I lie here, body aching. It's spirit time, that time in the deep night where no one else is awake. It's that time when you wish the night would go on for longer, but also end, because that subconscious is speaking loudly. It could not reach you in your dreams. I lie here, body aching. It's a familiar ache that I thought I had shed when I shared my paramedic identity, took off those heavy boots and the responsibility that came with it. That ache that sits behind my heart as my heart aches for humanity. But that mission is not done yet. In some ways, it has only just begun. That mission is seated in me, purpose and passion fiercely fueling me. It's that delicate dance between the worlds, a dance of deep devotion and servitude and self-care and survival in the colonial structures. These structures built to keep us separate, to keep the wild out, that dividing and conquering never ceased. Humanity crying out to be free, to return to the wild nature of the soul. But these days, we have way more dark nights of the soul than nature intended. So I lie here, this animal body aching, spirit connected to it all, but tonight this mind just can't work it out. There is too much to take on. The weight bears down on my chest, but I am not seeking the weight to be lifted, but instead to grow stronger. Responsibility is not to weigh us down, it is to make us strong. If we chose to come to Earth in a time where humans were having the most impact on the planet, where species extinction due to human impact was at its worst, would we not then have come here to change the narrative? Is it not time for us to take it upon ourselves to change this narrative? Too many texts were written by white wealthy men. These stories are outdated, written for the dark ages, for the time of divide and conquer. I write a new story, a different story. I am not a person of color, but colored every color of the rainbow. I still manage to find myself in categories of disapproval and discomfort for the status quo. I walk not on the fringes, but in the wild places that many are too afraid to go to. Because it is in those wild places that this new narrative exists. It exists in the wild places because it is not a new narrative. It is very, very ancient, as old as the earth herself. Knowledge is power. It is not written in the textbooks that have sacrificed the trees, but in the trees themselves, in the wild forests, the lungs of the earth, the whispers of the wind and the sacred waters. That is where the answers lie. As I lie here, body aching, I see now why this mind cannot work it out. It's an aching for what has been lost. It's the ache of that yearning for human nature to return, so that we may remember the ancient wisdom. The last remaining wisdom holders walk weary. They have seen so much devastation to the human soul, for we have lost our wildness, our own nature. That is where the old stories for this new world exist. Not in those sky-rise buildings, not in the manufactured commodities, not even in the textbooks. If we chose to come to Earth in a time where humans were having the most impact on the planet, where species extinction due to human impact was at its worst, would we not then have come here to change the narrative? Is it not time for us to take it upon ourselves to change this narrative? If this new narrative exists in the wild places, would we not go there? Would we not take it upon ourselves to remember how to inhabit the wild places of our soul, to go back to the ancient earth that was here before us? It's time now, for there is no other time. Our wild nature calls us home.
So nice. Very good.
Oh,
very deep.
Yeah, I felt to share that because, you know, sometimes when we try and go into, our own story, we can get a bit lost in it. So I find, the power of spoken word can say a lot.
Yeah, absolutely.
So, yeah, my journey has been one of healing, and it's quite amazing that this interview is happening on my home country, because I'm not very often up here. I'm normally between Central Australia and Southern Victoria. So, yeah, it's pretty cool that that I get to share with you on this country. So thank you for having me.
Thank you for sharing. That is great. Do you want to share a bit of your journey and also kind of the work you're doing with the land, with the people? Yeah. So, I mean, I can say something. I know you do earth dancing, which incorporates sound healing and connecting with nature. And then you have been a paramedic, and then you also work with women, and specifically also Indigenous women. Now you can add all the things you would like.
Yes, there is an array. Yeah, for me, looking, well, as a woman walking on ancient land, and sometimes having the privilege of walking with the original people of this land, it's very anchoring and humbling, incredibly humbling for me. And I realized that this kind of nature connection, Indigenous connection, and women connection, it all seems to meet and intersect. And so, my kind of life is a weaving together of those three important parts of life for me. So I like to say that, I grew up barefoot on the red soil here in Western New South Wales on Kamilaroi country on a farm. Very blessed to, begin life in such a, nature kind of way. So that was always primary for me, was, just one with nature. So very grateful for those beginnings. And alongside being a paramedic, I was also training in Hawaiian healing arts. And that was very harmonizing for me to have the intense medical emergency work alongside the deep spiritual healing work. So that's kind of been my beginnings in healing. And I very much kind of embarked on this journey into shamanism because it fascinated me and it made sense. It made sense that there was this, spiritual presence within life always, and that healing was more than the physical. So I did embark on quite a journey. I left my paramedic job, all the security of that, and I feel like the shamanic path is never ending, and it is something that you just summoned to. It's like you have no choice. And again, I'm just in awe of what this devotion, how it unfolds in ways that I never could have imagined. And I guess like one pivotal point in my life was when I got to sit in a women's culture camp near Uluru in 2016. And actually before that, I was in grief because I had learned about all these other Indigenous cultures, and I felt like the culture of this country, like the deep spiritual connection and culture, had been lost because I hadn't seen it. But it's because it's been kept so hidden and safe. And so I had the privilege of sitting with some senior elder women on the red soil, and I feel like that was both humbling, and that was where my my connection to women's work and holding ceremony began. And so that was a big moment in my life. And since then I have not stopped in this yearning to serve humanity and serve country and show up in places that I feel called to. And naturally, one of those spaces is in the activism for First Nations and in Central Australia. So that's been a key focus for me, and that is primarily what calls me into the desert every year, is this calling and devotion to walk with the people of this country, to connect more deeply to country. And I feel like find a way to connect others into this space. And sometimes I get a bit overwhelmed when I try and share all the different things that I do, because it's multi-faceted, from holding women's circles, holding earth dance, where we come together in ceremony with a live musician and dance and sit in circle. I run a 6-day women's gathering in the Kimberley, where we spend a lot of time with country, and we sit with custodians and we learn from them and we learn from each other in women's circles. Sort of spoken word, it just the list goes on. But again, it just comes back to healing. And I think for me, just the humbling, I feel like I need to keep connecting in to First Nations people to have a real reality check of where I am at in relation to country and to the spiritual work that I feel called to do. So I'm very grateful to have elders in my life that I can come back to a sense of real truth and understanding of what it means to walk on these lands, and to keep acknowledging the First Nations people and the work that they're doing. And I mean, just briefly, one of the people that I work with is Uncle Chris Tomlins, and he has this kind of all-encompassing, holistic approach to mostly bringing kids on country, but also like sharing the arts, sharing culture, and bringing people together. And I think, you know, one of the main reasons we've kind of been walking together in that space is because we both see the need for unity. You know, I'm representing someone of like white descent, and he is an Arrernte elder. So yeah, it's been incredible what I've learnt on that journey in the desert. And I just want to share the work that he does. It goes under Dreaming Australia. And yeah, it's there's so many things to it, but I think you know, that's something that we can also share after through links and stuff. I just you know, while I have the privilege of sharing to many people, I like to also share these other incredible important movements that are going on and calling us. You know, Dreaming Australia is calling us. There's yarning circles with the elders that are calling us. There's Making Peace commemoration movement that's calling us. All of these things. Yeah, while I have this time and space, I just want to like put it out there that if anyone's interested in, you know, any of this, there's some elders doing some incredible work. So yeah, I think that's something that I feel is important to also share.
Yeah, absolutely. What have you, so you did this step and you felt a calling, so you went into the desert, and you have been there with Indigenous people and specifically women. So what was your biggest learning, awakening, or where you felt like a deep connection, or where there were more questions arising through your experience?
Great question. I mean, one of the things that for sure that I have learned is what it means to belong, and the responsibility that comes when we actually belong, the reciprocity that's required of us. So that's, yeah, belonging and responsibility is what I definitely learn from First Nations people. And something that I would say the country taught me in Central Australia is my power as a woman. And, you know, that goes beyond race. There is something, you know, quite beautiful about being a woman connected to country. And I had this immense experience very randomly one day. I was just traversing the landscape, with the crew, as I would say. This was back in 2020. And I just had this overwhelming surge of immense power go through my body. And I knew that was Mother Nature. That was like the energy of the country that just was surging through me. And in that moment, I felt so much fierce feminine power that, yeah, I felt like, you know, in an instant I could stop mining and, you know, have these immense impacts.
Oh, the internet. What's happening? Hmm? Yay, back. That's the internet.
Yeah, it's the
Depending
internet,
where
and
you're at.
sometimes I think that spirit can intervene too. I was, after all, talking about the power of woman.
Here you go.
And actually, it's a good reminder that yeah, I mean, I have been privileged to a lot of experiences, and I do have to be careful of what I share. Yeah, so that's a good reminder.
You have to be careful for what you share.
Yeah,
Yeah.
there's a timing. There's a timing for everything.
Yeah, absolutely.
Mm. Yeah, so back to the power of woman, hey?
Great.
Yeah, that lesson came from the country. It came from my deep connection to the land. And you know, that deepening in connection, I feel, was very much enabled by connecting with and walking with First Nations people. I really think that it's time, it's time that, and I can see it. I can see more and more people, seeking this connection. And I guess some wise words from one of the elders is that we need to start with our own connection, to spirit and the country, and whatever fragments of our own ancient culture we have, and ancient remembrance. We have the memory of all of our ancestry in our DNA. So that's a huge amount of information that we have access to. So that probably does, bring me to, I guess, another part of my journey and in my work is in this deep remembrance. I mean, yeah, we belong to the earth. And for me, there might be this idea that spirituality is like out there and ascension and all of these things, but for me, it's all here. And it's it's this anchoring deeper and deeper into connection to country that I feel most connected to spirit. And in connecting to my body, and to my feminine body, I feel the most remembrance and open, and aware and connected to a timelessness. And there's been a lot of information that's come to me through my connection to my body, to earth, to my spirit, and to my own ancestry. And I don't even know when that, like, I can't really go back to the beginning of that, because I think we're kind of born with all of the wisdom and information. I think I just managed to hang on to like just enough of a thread through my childhood and teenage years to not forget entirely. And so, I've been amazed, when I hear stories from the elders, there's something in me that's just like, yeah, I know. I know humans have been around forever. I know the beginnings. I know all of these things because of my connection to the spirit world and to the country itself. So a lot of my, some of my spoken word kind of is a kind of almost like an invocation, and an invitation into this remembering and returning. And yeah, I've shared some channeled stories that I made public because I had that reflected back to me as truth in what in what elders have shared. So I think it's important to remember this, that it's, this information is in our bodies.
Yeah.
And connection is innate.
And so when you with the women and the elders, is there a profound kind of a thing you might want to share that has changed your view on things?
That's a good question. I feel like it's more so again along the lines of this, like,
Being,
remembering.
yeah.
This
It is being in the
remembering.
presence.
Yeah, and remembering belonging,
Yeah.
connection to the land, and the importance of, certainly the importance of coming together as women. And I guess, like, that's what has been the most clear to me, is that, I wish, my greatest wish in this life is to bring people together. And for me, I have really started focusing on women's work. I've been, holding circles and gatherings and in many, 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 many women's spaces since actually that culture camp in 2016, women's culture camp. So that's just something that I see when we keep gathering, it's decolonizing too, right? If we are really wanting to step into our power and remembrance and heal as a woman, as a human, there is a lot of decolonizing of the mind. I'm just blown away time and time again. I think I've done a lot of work on the decolonizing, coming back to baseline, and again and again and again. It's really clear that the stripping back the layers is the work. So I like to say that my ways of facilitating and leading and all that I do, I'm really exploring what it is to do that in the feminine. Feminine ways of leading and facilitating, of cutting out the hierarchy, learning from each other, supporting others to rise, nurturing growth. All of these things are, again, since that women's culture camp, connecting to the elders and to the country as women, it was just so important to me that, like, I needed to be radical. So, in quite a strong, structured, patriarchal world, I needed to be very radical in my approaches and create new ways of doing things. So and that's another, the feminine is the birthing, is the creating. So
So you kind of learned through being with Indigenous women on what it meant to be and connect, and it sounds like that was like your deeper experience in just being with them and being in the presence of the country and the land, and so to speak, kind of share it with with other women, I guess.
And that's exactly it, is being present with the land and the elders. Because what I've noticed, I've sat in a few big yarning circles with elders over the years, and what I have noticed is that when you are in the presence of a powerful original First Nations person, there is something that happens on a cellular level, and they're very humble. But even just in their presence, I feel things changing inside of me. And of course, when they share stories and song and stories of themselves, of course that's changing me on many levels. But just that mere presence, they just hold so much knowledge and wisdom, and it is a huge privilege to be merely in their presence. It's a cellular transformation and information transfer too, I would say. So
yeah, I think it's beautiful because they obviously, I mean, it's their birthland, so that's their belonging. Obviously, all us white people came from mostly Europe, or our lineage came from Europe. So I guess our belonging is partly somewhere else. And the ancestors are somewhere else. But they possibly really inherit this kind of continent and lands, and I can really imagine that it just vibrates in their presence through them, and that they have obviously also seen the land differently over all the time they have lived here compared to us, which you can see in their drawings and their I guess like how they take things in, and what they take from the land and how they know the land. I mean, it's possibly really different to, going to a supermarket or something. So I really found also that it's rather, I was thinking that yesterday, as longer as I live here, it's really shocking on how less their culture is integrated, unless someone can make money from it, like Aboriginal paintings or something, but that they just so less integrated in everyday life. I think it's coming. It's obviously evolving in learning on which land you are, from which tribes, and what you said at the start as well, that things start to shift and awareness starts to rise, but possibly not there yet, where it's possibly coming kind of back to the start, but just compared to that, it's a pretty young country. I'm really surprised how less influence they actually have compared to when you go to Africa. There's so much presence of African people, but here it's
the invasion was brutal here. It's 250 years ago. It's not that long ago, actually. Things got colonized very, very rapidly, very quickly. It's in my journey of trying to understand and conceptualize this, growing up in the bush as a little wildling, feeling very connected to the world around me, I really feel like my body has come from the land, that the land birthed me. And I guess, yes, my ancestry, my blood, my spirit, all of these things, perhaps, yeah, they came from somewhere else. But I feel like this country, yeah, it raised me, and it's becoming harder and harder for me to like dissect this like belonging to the country that grew me up and this land, and having Scottish, whatever else, mostly Scottish heritage and blood. The culture here is the longest living culture. They are the original people. I say they're the grandparents of our civilization. And I mean, again, I have to be careful of what I say, that I'm not sharing too much. But yeah, I mean, ultimately, we have all come from the earth. And I think that, things like the rewilding movement, anything that brings us back to nature is bringing us back to this greater sense of connection and unity. And I think it always will be important to begin with the acknowledgement of the original people of these lands, of the oldest culture in the world. And I mean, I know it's a big statement, but if these people are the grandparents of our civilization, I honestly believe that if we want to see harmony and a returning to actually wisdom, then it's going to start with the people of these lands. And yeah, for me, like I get to be a part of and see that incredible wisdom and knowing. Yeah, it is big. So I am listening so keenly to what they have to say. Definitely.
Yeah. How do they, are they talking about forgiveness? How do they feel about people being on their land?
That's
Is there
a
like,
bit of a tricky one, because yeah, I mean, there's different levels of trauma and healing. Yeah, I would find it very hard to speak to that. It's very delicate terrain.
yeah,
But I think, if anything, I've learned that, yeah, to have compassion, and yeah, and to be on the healing journey. Yeah, it's
so do you say you also want to be careful what you share because you want to kind of protect their sharing that they have shared with you in a space?
it's more so the stories and knowledge that's been passed on to me. Everything has a time and a space.
Yeah. I was just asking to
Yeah,
clarify.
yeah. The stories
Just in
kind of
case
span
people
across all
asking
time. So.
themselves, yeah, why you might not want to share some things,
Yeah, well, I mean, that comes back to truth telling. A big part of the yarning circles and a lot of the work is hearing their stories and the stories of their families and what has been inflicted on them through colonization. And I mean, it's not a burden for us to take on, but there is a real need to listen and understand what has gone on these lands, to walk together. So yeah, I think there is a need to hear their the truth, the truth of what's going on. I think that's only then can we walk together and heal together, and it's so important.
And so when you said before that you're organizing a women's circle in the Kimberleys, and so is this kind of your way on also connecting people with well, I guess like Kimberleys and even the Outback is possibly much more nature and land than, let's say, Melbourne, that you can, you know, connect to. And so do you feel like you connect the women with the land, but also connect the people with the Indigenous people as well? Like, are you connecting there?
Yeah, well, I feel like to hold that space on the land, it's really important for me to have the involvement of the custodians of that land, and so that's always going to be pretty core to me. And again, like that's the interception of the women's work, connecting to country and connecting to custodians. It feels like for the whole holistic experience, that's we need all of that. So and that's something that I've been cultivating in Central Australia too. But the relationships with the First Nations women is something that is it takes time, and so bit by bit, I've started kind of inviting women in to to connect with the people of country, and that's going to be a very slow growing journey, because it requires a lot of respect. And I think if we need a meeting point, where when the two cultures are coming together, we need a meeting point. And I think mostly what we see is a kind of a bit more heavily weighed towards a colonial Western way of doing things. And what I'm seeing in Central Australia is that finding a central point, or even something that is more aligned with how they want to do it. Because I think that it's so important. We don't want to keep colonizing. So and it always will come back to relationship with the people, with the country, with ourselves, with the women that come along. So big lessons for me, always big lessons.
Beautiful. That's so nice you share this experience. What else would you like to share?
Well, I feel like that's coming full circle, really. The humble work of listening and devoting, and being of service. So I guess to conclude, I feel very, very privileged to be living this life, to be connecting with elders, to be a big part of some massive movements that are led by, by the elders and by wise people that are steering us in a much better direction. So whilst I do, a lot of my own offerings with facilitation and healing, I do one-on-one healings. I'm always also supporting these other movements. Which I just think all of this is just steering us into a better direction. As a humanity. So may we keep remembering our way home to our soul and to our connection to this earth.
Yeah. Nice finishing words in a way, or full circle, as you said. Yeah. I will absolutely link your connections in the show notes. And also, if there's earth dancing, which I think is really amazing as well, to connect yourself and, to nature and sound and people. And I connect your homepage or the workshops that you're doing, and then if people want to connect with you, they can do so, I guess. You would like
Thank
that.
you. Yeah, and I guess too, like since I've been quite active in the work, I must admit that my website has fallen by the wayside. But in the meantime, I've started a collective of women. That's like, I'm kind of creating this online portal called Women Gather. That's been in the making for some time, but as my kind of energy has more and more gone to volunteering to important places and people, I've started a way to be a bit more sustainable by creating this online kind of portal into all that I do and all invitation to, to the women gatherings and things that are happening with First Nations people. I've started it through Patreon, so people can sign up like as a membership thing, and that seriously supports me when I'm in the desert. I can go months without an income. So I've kind of created this with the primary purpose to connect women in more of a community way where they have access to everything that I offer very easily, and also to sustain me in this modern world. So I'll share that.
Yeah, amazing.
Link with you.
Yeah, cool. That sounds great.
Thank you so much for this opportunity. I feel very grateful.
Yeah, thank you for sharing your story and how you feel what you do, and has been such a blessing. And I'm sure people that will listen will have some eye-opening moments or think about specific topics, and I feel like for me it was really also belonging. It got me really deep into nearly having tears in a way, because it's always a question where you belong in the end of the day. That's a big question. And also I was thinking about this yesterday. There's places have so big memories on memories of, I feel, energetic memories, but also memories because of what you associate with space, places, and that's where also your comfort and your connection and your belonging comes to, in a way. That's what I was thinking about yesterday. Really nice. Well, thanks so much for some thought and some shared words.
Hmm.
And I'm gonna stop the recording and